Hello and welcome to the shop. The other day I made a sieve for sifting sand and dirt. I'm going to be going to the beach and doing a little bit of beach hunting with my metal detector, and I don't want to have to continually bend over to dig in the sand, and sand's tough to dig in because it caves in on itself. So I'm going to build a sand scoop with a handle. I've got a piece of 6-inch PVC and I've got a cap. Let's see what we can come up with. I drew a mark on the pipe 7 inches from the end, and I made a straight line to signify the top center of the pipe. Then I took a piece of string and I wrapped it around the pipe, and where it met, where the two strings or the two ends met, told me the diameter of the pipe. I measured it and it came out to 14.5 inches. Putting the two pieces together, I could find the center, and again I could put them together and find the center. Let me get them together there. There we go. So if I use these marks around the pipe, if I line the center mark up here with this, I can find the two side points on the pipe. So let me do that. All right, we're just going to put this on here like this. There's your center point. I stretch it down this way, and I'll make a mark right here, and then I'll flip the pipe over and I come down, and there's my mark there. Now that I've got the sides marked, I'm just going to go ahead and draw lines. Let me line this up from this line forward to the 10-inch mark, and from this line forward to the 10-inch mark. And there's your 10-inch mark. So from this line forward to the 10-inch mark, now what I want to do is I really want to connect these two lines at the end. So I'm just going to basically take my pen and just kind of roll the pipe best as I can. And that's close enough. This will be the bottom or the lip of my sand scoop. And let's just kind of rough this in like this. And I'm going to try to cut it with somewhat of a lip. Probably I'll go out even sharper than that, quite honestly, because I want something that I can sharpen up and really dig into the sand. I think that looks a lot better. So let me get a saw and we'll start working on this. Actually, before I start cutting, I want to do one more thing, and that is I just want to kind of do a swoop down from here. And again, I'm just freehanding this. There's no math to it, nothing. I'm just trying to kind of have a scoop that cuts open and has a nice long lip on it, and that will allow me to dig into the sand. I'm going to attempt to use a Dremel tool to cut this. We'll see how it does. The Dremel was doing a fair job. The problem is it's so hot that it's melting the plastic back together. So I went ahead and scored the tube all the way around, and now I'll get another saw and hand saw this piece off. This is just a little tool I picked up. You just put a hacksaw blade in this handle and you can cut with it. I'm hoping I have a hole here that I can get this into. Doesn't look like it. Let me get the Dremel tool and try to cut that without melting it too bad so that I can at least get this started, and then I'm going to use this to go ahead and follow this groove and get it all cut out. All right, I think that's got it. Now we're just going to take our time and cut this out. Well, that happens sometimes. I broke the blade. Not a big deal. I'll just loosen it up and bring another piece out. Try not to let too much overhang because I probably will break it quite a bit. And part of the problem is I'm trying to work in front of the camera, so I'm out in front of myself instead of directly over it, which is probably putting the blade at a bit more of a bind, but I still think we can make it work. I am cutting in at an angle, and part of the reason why I'm doing that is because it will make the lip sharp so that it digs into the sand easier. I'll actually take probably a sanding wheel or a sanding disc on my drill press and sharpen that edge up once I get it cut off. I tell you what, I'm going to turn the camera off. I'm going to get this cut in half, and I'll come back, show you what I've got, and we'll move on to the next step. Here's what I ended up with. Overall, I'm happy. It did end up breaking down toward the end because I came in from one side and the other, and of course the blade didn't actually come around. It sort of cut into the plastic. So I'm going to try to take a sanding disc and clean these two edges up. I put an 80 grit wheel on my spindle sander, and I'm going to try to use this. It's relatively aggressive, and hopefully I can do a pretty decent job of cleaning the tip of that up. You can see that it's getting better. I've just about got the divot out. I'm going to sand a little more. The sharper I make this, the easier it will cut into the sand. So we're going to work a little bit more on this and try to take it up a little bit higher, sharpen it up, maybe about halfway up the pipe. Well, overall, I'm happy. I mean, it's not perfect, but you know what? It's going to get pretty wore out getting shoved into the sand. I've got a nice sharp edge there, so I think that'll cut through the sand really well. What I'm going to do now is I think I'm going to work on getting a handle mounted to this. That's going to be kind of a tricky piece. I'm not sure exactly how to do it, but I've got a piece of wood, and I'm going to go ahead and see if I can get it cut at a decent angle and get it mounted to the top of this. I've drawn a line on my wooden handle to kind of give me an angle. When I hold the handle straight down, I want the scoop to be angled into the sand so that I can easily step on the back of it and drive it into the sand. So I'm going to take and cut. I don't know what that angle is. I just kind of eyeballed it. Let's say 45. It's probably fairly close to that. So let me get it cut, and then we'll work to get it attached to the pipe. Before I raised the blade, I laid my board over top of it, and I just eyeballed front to back the line that I drew over my blade, and it came out to be 51 degrees. Now, that's not anything that's set in stone. I'm going to cut that, and I'm going to see how I like it. If I don't, I'll adjust the angle. But I kind of figure anywhere from about 45, give or take a couple of degrees, will be fairly good. So let's go ahead and get this trimmed off. So when I'm holding the stick straight up in the air, the pipe is at this angle to the sand, and I can step on the back of it, force it into the sand, and then lift it up and shake out any of the anything that I find, whether it be a coin or a ring or whatever. I'm back over at my drum sander, and what I want to do is kind of put a little bit of a curve in the front of this piece of wood, and that's so that it'll lay a little nicer along the top of the pipe. So let's take care of that. I want to find the center of the top section of this pipe. I'm going to drill a hole straight down through it, all the way through the bottom. And then I'll be able to flip the pipe over, put the bit in the bottom of the pipe and run it through the top and drill a hole into this handle so that I'll be able to attach the handle with this bolt. I think it'll make more sense once I get going. All right, hole all the way through. Now we'll come up from the bottom and we'll find the hole in the top. All right, we'll back off just a little bit. And then we're going to take our handle, and I want to put the bolt as far to the back of the handle as possible to give me as much meat to grip to as possible. So I'm going to bring the handle up, and I'm going to try to center it on the pipe as best as I can, and then we're going to drill into it. Okay, now we've got a mark. Now we'll go ahead and finish that mark all the way through the handle. Here's the bolt I'll be using, and I've got this little piece of metal. I don't know what it is or where it came from, but it fits perfectly on the bolt, and I'm going to use it kind of as a washer on the inside, thinking that it will lay in the tube this way and just kind of help me crank down the nut from the top onto the bolt. Put this in here like this. We'll bring our handle up. There we go. I think we're going to stop, and what I'm going to do is get a larger bit and just sort of ream the top of this hole so that I can set this washer flat and get my lock washer and my nut cranked down on there. If it's at an angle, I'm not going to be able to get a good fit. So let me get a larger bit and sort of ream that out a little bit. I grabbed a 3/4 inch paddle bit. That appears to be about the right size, and I'm just going to slightly take it down. I don't want to go real deep because I want to keep as much meat there to bite on as possible. This could be a little tough. We'll get that on there. And what I'm going to try to do is run the nut down as I bring this up because I don't have a lot of room. I'm going to use 2 nuts and crank them down together to try to hold this. That is, if I'm able to get them started. I'm going to get a carving knife and try to take a little bit out of there because it's such a tight fit at that angle. This is just considered a whittler's knife. It's a flex cut. It's a very good knife. I've used it for carving in the past. It's very sharp, and I'm just going to take some of the wood out of the back here so that I can get the nut to go on at the angle that I'm having to put it on. I think part of the problem is with me having a 51-degree angle, that's just not lining up quite as nicely as maybe a 45 would. Let's see if that nut will start now. Much better, much better. So let's take that off. We're going to crank the first one all the way down, then we'll bring the second one up and tighten it against the lock washer, and that should really tighten us down. I need to go ahead and get this cap attached to the back of this, and for that I've got some PVC primer and some PVC glue, and we're going to use those to attach this. Start out with a little bit of the primer. I did put some cardboard down because I'm generally very messy with this stuff. You may be able to do it much neater than me, but I am not neat at using it. I'm going to prime the pipe. I'm going to prime the inside of the cap. Okay. There we go. While primer is still wet, use appropriate solvent. That's what we needed to know. Whoops. See, I got it all over my hand already. That's me. So we're going to go ahead and apply a liberal amount of glue. Looks like I got some inside the pipe. And a little bit of glue on here. Got my hammer, and we're going to put this together. And I'm going to let that dry. And the next step is I need to get some holes drilled in this so that when I scoop into the sand can run out. I want the holes big enough to take as much sand out as possible, but small enough to keep the tiniest US coin, which is a dime. So the bit that I have, you can see, is smaller than a dime. It's a 9/16 inch bit. So I'm going to drill 9/16 inch holes all along the bottom, and I'll drill some in the cap and on the back of the cap. This will let the sand flow out of the scoop very easily, leaving behind currency. I also feel that rings would probably be a little bit larger than a dime and would probably stay in there as well. So let's just drill some holes. We've got a few holes drilled, and what I'm going to do is put more, and I'm going to alternate them. Those holes will go between these holes as I come around, and I won't get too much higher than this because I really just want to get it out the bottom of the scoop. I'm not going to make you watch all of the drilling. I'll come back and show you what I've got when I'm finished. My sand scoop is complete. Let me show you how it works. When you have a target, notice the handle is vertical. I can put it on the ground, I can step on it and push it into the sand. When I lift it up, if it's loose sand, you can shake the sand out. If it's wet sand, you can rinse it in the water. I apologize for how quickly this video was put together and for the haphazardness of the video, but we are leaving in the morning for Daytona Beach. And I needed to get this finished tonight because I don't have much time. I got to go start packing the van. You will not see this video until we have returned. While I'm there, if I do shoot any footage, I'll be sure to put a video together and show you guys. I appreciate you sticking around for this video. I want you to know that you are always welcome in my shop. Come back and see me again real soon.